A Pathfinder chief said we should not go. 400 miles, straight line, bright moonlight, no clouds. We never bombed Germany in bright moonlight. So we thought, we're sitting ducks, they're going to see us. But you go. That was our duty. Around 8 or 9 o'clock, we'd hop in a truck, go out to the aircraft. I would go to the back and be on the tail wheel. Because it was 8 hours before, and I was a little nervous.
This is the nose section of a Halifax bomber, and this is where the pilot sat. And you can see his controls up here and the view that he would have had, or not much of a view. In fact, you can't see anything below him. And you can see here where this is the lever for the bomb bays, which would have to be opened over target. Position under here would be the wireless operator. And in the front are the navigator and the bomb aimer. These are amazingly cramped conditions. And of course, one of the most important positions would be the bomb aimer, because once over target, he's the one who would have to make the decision when the bombs would be dropped. And he would signal the skipper. Skipper would open the bomb base, and then the bomb aimer would release the bombs. The flight engineer was just behind me here, and in the back you had the tail gunner and the mid-upper gunner, and that made up the crew of 7.
Pilots would start running up their motors. There were 2 squadrons, so there'd be about 30 aircraft warming up. And we'd see the green light, and we'd start taking off. Every 30 seconds, an aircraft would take off. The wind was blowing everybody off course because they forecast the winds as 50 miles an hour, and it was actually 100 miles an hour. So the navigator refigured his route to the target. As we're starting this long route, I count 22 aircraft going down in flames in 20 minutes.
With clear skies and a bright moon, the hundreds of bombers are clearly visible, sitting ducks for German fighters.
The weather was marvelous. Clear sky. It was simply ideal. It was a Lancaster flying on a steady course. When we were comfortably positioned underneath, the pilot opened fire with an upward firing cannon at one wing, which immediately caught fire. We followed the Lancaster for 5 minutes until it crashed below with a tremendous explosion.
Normally, we'd lose maybe 40 aircraft. We lost 108 that night. Everybody was feeling this is likely the day I get mine. You get to the target, there's a little excitement. You see people weaving because there's flak coming up. And as we went over the target, there was no flak. I thought, well, thank God, we're going to get rid of our bombs and buzz off into the darkness, and we should make it back. We bombed Nuremberg, then we start heading home. But Red Satyr had forgotten to recalculate his course with the 100-mile-an-hour winds. So after an hour or so, he said, "I'm sorry, Skipper, I have to make a correction of course." We had to turn 45 degrees to port. We were coming into 700 aircraft. We're bound to hit someone if we don't watch it. It was dark, it was quiet, and you can hear everybody has their mic open, and you can hear people breathing. The pilot said, "What the hell?" And then there was a crash. I see this other aircraft go out from underneath. I see him out there. He seems to be flying okay. We seem to be flying okay. And he disappeared in a few seconds. What I didn't know is that we were both pretty well stalled. The radio was dead. So we have a little signal button. I signaled. No answer. And I thought, we've had trouble before. We'll get home. I look to the right. There's a big tail fin. Look to the left. There's nothing. I thought, I'm getting out of here. I unhook my oxygen, pull out my communications cord, open the doors, crawl out, reach for my parachute, and it's dark. You have to do it by feel. Stand up, and I find out I'm halfway out of the aircraft. It's then I realize there's no roof on the aircraft. And I'm realizing now we must be crashing. I jump up on the edge of the aircraft and jump off. And the aircraft is still there. I seem to be just floating. And the aircraft is floating alongside of me. So I kick against the aircraft. I go shooting away, pull my hand away, the chute opens, and it was just like some giant grabs me. And I think the chute's going to go upside down. I'm swinging so much. And I hit the ground. This is where, on March 31st, I arrived by parachute, and I crawled into the forest right in this area. It was night. I couldn't see very much. I stumbled into a log, crawled under the log, and wrapped up my parachute around me and went to sleep. And I wake up, and I hear church bells. And I thought, oh, I must have tied one on last night. And I look up, and I said, trees. I'm an officer. I don't sleep in the forest. Then I realize it all comes back in a rush. I remembered the crash, and I thought, it must be that everybody's dead. I was feeling a bit sad and thought the war was over for me, and maybe I'd just go and give myself up.
Jim Moffat does not surrender. Like many other downed airmen, he's picked up by the Belgian resistance and is hidden for 3 months until the Allied armies arrive and he is free. He is one of the lucky ones. In just one night, on the Nuremberg raid, more than 100 bombers are lost, and more than 500 aircrew die, including 112 Canadians. The raid on Nuremberg has very little effect on the Germans, and the bombing campaign now shifts to support the coming invasion of Normandy, D-Day, June 6th, 1944.
This is Reichwald War Cemetery. The bomber war over Europe was a long and bloody affair, and it cost the lives of 55,000 aircrew. There are 4,000 of them buried here at Reichwald. That represents 800 downed planes. This is the grave of Pilot Officer Wallace Granbois of British Columbia, and he was an air gunner in Bomber Command. He was shot down and lost over Dusseldorf on the 23rd of April, 1944. He was 26 years old. The inscription reads, "Not just today, but every day, in silence we remember." The tragedy of this is that his brother is buried over in plot 21. He was killed at Mannheim in 1945.